Hello and welcome. I am Michelle Lane, and I have a very special guest here today that I'm super excited about as we kind of just have a chat around what well-being is going to look like in 2021. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, I'm Michelle Lane. I am an embodiment and self-mastery master. I have a love for numerology. I love energy work and all the things that help us bring us back to ourselves. And with me today, I have the beautiful Emerald Starlight Norman, who I'll let introduce herself. But we're really excited to bring you some new perspectives and shifts in our options and well-being for this next year ahead. So, Emerald, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Michelle. I am, in this beautiful journey, about a year and a half now of stepping into healing arts, Reiki, energy work, mediumship, connection with spirit, and it's just been really beautiful for me to dive into and let my true heart's desire lead me. And it's been such a beautiful journey getting to know you and sharing our magic together. And I'm so happy to be here today with you.
I love that so much. I had so many questions pop in as you were saying that I think would be kind of a fun place to start and then lead in. We were talking before we went on about so many delicious areas of self that we can explore that sometimes we don't even know is possible. So what I wanted to find out from you, and maybe you can share with the audience, is, did you wake up one day and say, oh, I want to get into this healing arts. I want to go a little bit deeper into the spirituality and that energetic connection and the beyond, right? Like the unknown versus the known. And beyond, like, however you got into that place, like, what have you learned about yourself that it took you to get to being open to this work that you're doing today? I think that would be a really fantastic. I know a little bit of your story, but I want you to share a little bit of it for you. Getting more specifically to, like, why the healing arts and why mediumship, and what did it take for you to open up to that from where you were before?
Well, that's a very good question. I love that. I would love to share that. So I've always been drawn to the healing arts from the time I was really little. And connecting with people in that way. I've always had a lot of empathy. But I had my daughter when I was 22 and really just needed to make money and support ourselves. So I went into sales and had a pretty long career in sales and really connected that with my empathy and my taking care of people and being of service to people. But in 2017, I suffered a really tragic loss. My daughter died. And in a way, I didn't have a choice in following the call, to spirit. I really felt immediately like I had one foot in the next world and one foot in this world. And in my healing journey, healing my own grief, deciding, how to live again and to live again, that I wanted to live again. It was just so clear that I couldn't just work a job. I needed to be really purposeful with my life. And, that first started out with just simply sharing my gifts with other people. If you want to be following your purpose, that's really all you have to do. But over the years, several years of asking, what is my purpose? What is my deeper purpose? In this sort of magical way, in my path was, revealed. I got laid off from my job with Samsung and really started off on this journey. And that was pretty much when I met you. And just knew that I had these questions inside of me and this journey that I wanted to go on, but I had no idea how it was going to unfold. And I learned that if I just trusted and showed up, for the next 3 steps, that the next 3 steps would reveal themselves. And so I was first led to Reiki, energy work. And then that led me to mediumship, which was really just, what if I could communicate with the spirit world. I'd felt really certain that my daughter had been sending me some messages. I'd read some books by some mediums. I had a friend of a friend reach out who'd received a message, from my daughter. And so it was really just this, following of my true heart's desire, and this huge leap of faith also.
Yeah.
And in that, you were such a big help with, helping me stay inspired and helping me step way outside of my comfort zone and deal with all that fear that I had coming up, because, in a way, from the outside looking in, it seems like maybe this has been an easy path for me, but there's been so much heavy fear that I've had to really go in and heal, and resistance and old patterns and, all of that. And so, working with you has been a big part of that. Taking the brain game has been a big part of that. Investing in myself, really, that willingness to invest in myself. Gosh, let's see what else. So healing arts. Reiki really helped open up some of my inspiration as far as being called to working with essential oils, working with crystals and stones, and really listening to my intuition and realizing that it is through our heart and our intuition that, our high self, our soul really speaks to us, and that we can't go wrong, when we do that. And then also being willing to shift and see that the things that were coming up, like fear, were coming up to be healed, were coming up as they were, clearing. And so what can I do to support that and help that process versus, I just don't want to look at that. We're not going to talk about that, and then staying stuck. There was years
about that a little bit too. And thank you for sharing all that, because I know it hasn't been an easy journey. And a lot of times too, like you had this express journey into getting back to yourself, not one that you'd wish upon anyone, yet you found so much strength and courage. And a lot of it that was already there, but you were just able to identify it in different areas. And, we've been mentioning patterns, and we've been mentioning those things that we want to look at, sometimes the fear that shows up. And a lot of times there's terminology when you get into a personal development or a spiritual study around alignment and resistance, like terminology like self-love on both sides. What else? Intention and triggers. So those are some of the words. Like you may have heard of a couple of those before you dove in, but once you dove into the betterment of yourself from that relationship with yourself standpoint, a lot of those come up. And then we add on a trauma, or we add on a loss, or we add on a pandemic, or we add on disruption anywhere in our lives. And it's such an opportunity to be able to look at those places exactly where you said, like, oh, I just want to run from that.
Yeah.
And then later find ourselves kind of in this, like, you hear this whisper of, is this a pattern in my life? Oh no, I don't want to listen to that. I don't want to touch that. Right. And I can't tell you how many times looking back now in different moments of my life where it felt really hard, or it felt really scary, or it felt uncomfortable because it required me to do something different, where that familiar feeling came up. And I didn't know then that it was called a trigger, because we can have triggers like on this gloriously beautiful side of life as well. You see a sunset, and if your heart starts pattering, you have to be out to enjoy it. That's a beautiful emotional trigger to something that's wonderful that you've embodied. Likewise, if there's something we don't want or don't want to feel or have this any other feeling besides love, gratitude, or compassion, it's something we've learned along the way. And we don't often notice what it is that triggers us unless we're super angry about what somebody said or somebody did, or actions of others, or something that happened circumstantial in the world. And we see ourselves really in this like heightened nervous system, stressed out kind of state, but not really sure how to calm ourselves back out of it. And so I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit today, because I really feel passionate that this is a really prominent place for 2021, where our well-being is just kind of bouncing the signal, the triggers. in all of us. And we
Absolutely.
want so desperately to point the finger and say, it's here, it's this, it's because of this, it's that, because I used to do
Yeah.
that too. And the switch in, like, okay, and even when that's happening, where can I look at me differently?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how
One
do
of
I?
the things you one of the things you said reminded me of just yeah, all the ways in our culture that we're taught and encouraged to numb our feelings, versus actually dealing with them. Um, this journey for me has definitely been this knowing that the way out is the way through.
Yeah.
You can't go around it, you can't bypass it, you can't bury it. Emotions are energy in motion, they have to be felt, you
Yeah.
know so that they can leave the body. And when you're in those states of, like you said, fight, flight, you're triggered, you might not even know why or what, because it can be so many combinations of different old patterns. And also that just that habit of not leaning into it. I actually feel like I'm really fortunate. One of the things I said early on was like, well, how have I done this, this healing from grief? First of all, I developed a lot of resiliency early on in my life as a single parent. And in a way, life really prepared me for this in ways I hadn't even realized. But I'm also really good at crying. Like, I'm also really good at feeling my feelings, at acknowledging my feelings, at even just, it's like that first step of like, what does Dr. Phil say? You can't, if you can't name it, you can't change it.
Mm.
Like just being willing to say like, yes, this is here. You might not even know what else to do, but just that's huge. Just to be able to say, hey, there's something wrong.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking, as you're talking about this, as a younger child, I may have expressed through tears a lot more. But as I got older, I got really good at being fine. I'm
Yeah.
I'm so fine. Let's focus on you, because I don't want you to see me while I'm not fine. And it really became such an embedded response that it took a bit for me to dig that. Well, it's not even done. Like it comes up a lot to where I don't even want to see myself that way. And so you that fast track that I was talking about, that express lane into like, wow, this is my life. It's completely changed, and
Mhm.
it's unfathomable. Like,
Yeah.
seriously. And I know we
Well,
have
and
conversation on this, so talking about it is a little easier than hearing it for the first time. And I'll let you roll with this in a second, but I was just thinking, like, it doesn't change our experience. Everybody has an experience of something they've experienced in life, and it's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just the experience, and some of it truly can be unfathomable. And we don't have to understand every piece of it for someone else, but we can be willing to listen and hold that space for it to grow where it needs to grow.
yeah,
And I
that's
think,
weird. That's something that you're really good at also, about holding that space where people can just, I think so often we do get caught up in the good, the bad, whatever. No. How about we just sit with it,
yeah,
and not judge it and not label it and not add all those other stuff on. That in itself is such a loving act.
yeah,
It might not feel like love, but just sitting with it, just being willing to be with it. In a way, 2020 for so many people, has been that life-changing event.
yeah.
For me, it's interesting. I'm like,
We're not doing this by ourselves. We're all in some
yeah.
depth of it, right?
Mhm.
This opportunity to see ourselves where we were and where we are. Like, we all know, we've talked about, like, normal's not coming back. There's going to be something new to get adjusted to. But I don't think that's different in life. It's just been heightened. That's been fast tracked right now because there's a number of things on our mind, and fear is really present. And we've got illness, and we've got this COVID that's taking over people's health. And there's
Mhm.
an idea that it could still be or is out there, and what can we do to help prevent it, and what can we do to live with it, and how do we deal with emotions coming up around those we've lost, which just, my heart goes out to those families and friends and people who've experienced this. And yet we don't have to be at the whim of these emotions, not to negate them, but just moving forward, where we can oftentimes loop ourselves in this stuck feeling. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it's so important for me to people to know. There's tools, whether you work one-on-one with the coach or not, like that's a feeling that you get inside of your body. But there are group experiences, there are group coaching programs, there are retreats, there are things available to experience life in these ways to help you move through.
Yeah.
And they impact you and they give you the tools to help. And not that you have to do it perfectly or you're never going to need a support system or a group or a team or a coach or anything like that again. But it gives us an insight into ourselves that we didn't have that moment prior to learning it. So can you speak to the tools and what effectively helped you the most as far as one-on-one and then diving into brain gaming and even brain game on its own, how maybe you didn't have to have one experience before the other. It just happened to be your experience
Mhm.
and where you are now from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do that, I want to just say what came to mind, as you're talking is I think a lot of people in my life looked at me and kind of just expected me to fall apart and to be broken forever,
Yeah.
And I think there is this idea that, oh my God, this horrible thing happened. Well, your life is ruined. Your life is over, right? Like there is no healing. And I truly believe and want to believe that we can heal from anything, and we don't so much move on, but we take that with us. My daughter is always with me, every day in every way. And so whatever it is that people are going through, whether it's, loss of a job or self-identity or a divorce or any number of the things that can cause, heavy grief and trauma in our lives, just know that, yeah, there are these tools out there that can help you through it and that can help you to choose what you want your life to be like, what, like you said, how you want to feel, all of that. Like this didn't happen to break you forever,
Right.
um, so the tools that helped me, breathing, first of all.
Mhm.
One of my favorite, and this is a great thing to share with our audience, one of my favorite somatic breathing techniques I heard about on a podcast. And it's really simple. You just take 5 deep breaths where your exhale is twice as long as your inhale, and it forces your nervous system to calm down. So if you're triggered, if you're really upset, this is great with anxiety as well. I like to add in some essential oils, adding in another layer to it. That was a big part of how I got through, having to go back to work. Early on, I would cry in between my store visits, and I would breathe before I went in, and during and after, and all of that. And yeah, so being present with myself. Like I said, crying for me was really helpful. Being out in nature. Hiking, I got my dog Rita, so she was a huge, emotional support to me. And it's funny too, because she's this 60-pound dog now that tries to sit on people's laps, but it was because at the time, she was like my life-size stuffed animal. So that was very helpful. And then when I met you, we ended up doing some one-on-one work, which was so powerful. I think I'd been part of a group experience, which was good. Um, there's so much differences in different group experiences, in different coaches. Like you said, it really is so important to go with what really feels right for you, and to know that you're going to get something out of whatever it is that you're feeling drawn to. So let that lead you to the next thing. There is no one and done. I did this thing and now I'm good forever. I'm fine.
That's important too, because that's a very big misconception. I think even in the word heal, like, okay, I healed. Like your boo-boo heals and then it goes away. But when you're emotionally and energetically healing, or even mentally, rewiring and reprogramming, there's the healing that you can definitely feel in your body, that shift cellularly. But then there's the maintenance.
Mhm.
Because our mind likes to think and ruminate and constantly is deleting and sorting and filtering and all the things that it beautifully does, because it has I don't know, millions of pieces of information flowing through it at any one time. But as human beings, we tend to think in the lack, and we tend to think about the things we think about most. And so your brain, if it's automating, is going to loop into those patterns of thought. So there's been statistics like that we've heard, a lot of us have heard about, we have 80,000 to 90,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of them are on loop that will repeat tomorrow in our subconscious mind. So what is it that we're bringing into our subconscious mind, and how is it feeling in our body when we do that? And I really believe we're aware of this happening. Some days it's louder, some days it's overwhelming, frustrating, and there's a point where we all get to like go do the thing that we need to break away from it, or maybe we implode and then feel badly, and like there's just living that happens. But that body piece, that coming back into the body, was the thing that I discovered in being, learning my coaching, being a coach, and being diving into a lot of so many of these programs. And then what Reiki brought for me as well was this energy that's real, as a part makeup, as our human experience, as our outside world experience. They're objects, they're energy, they're things, right? But our emotions can present some of those things happening within our body. And so at one time we'll be working with the head, and it becomes normal for us to like beat ourselves up, or talk negatively about ourselves, that it becomes a habit. Maybe it's even so much going that we don't pay any attention to it. Like we wouldn't think of the negative thoughts that follow, or the language. And we don't know that there's another side to that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that resistance that you mentioned before, that feeling of, I don't know if I want to go there, or it doesn't feel normal. This is at least familiar, but this makes me feel all scattered. There's that moment when we work in personal development towards that transformation where it gets kind of like, this is tough a little bit, right? That's why I love programs where we can support you through it and afterward. And actually understanding that's part of the transformation, because what happens is people get here and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel, I don't want to do those things. And we go back to what feels good. And in that moment, all you had to do was go, boop.
Yep.
That much more. And there's this world that exists over here that you never got to, because the mind pulls us back. That's not safe. That's not what feels good. That's not what we know. That's not what we told it. That's not what we want, right? Because we've been focusing on all the things we don't want. And it creates this programming, and our reality starts to show that as an effect of those things that we're thinking. And so when we think in terms of the body, it's not about how thin you have to be or what you should look like. It's about, how are you loving yourself? And as the relationship to yourself, because everything in life is a relationship. We have a relationship to a pen and our mouse and a cup of coffee and our phone and ourselves and our friends and our husbands and wives and significant others and kids. And it all stems from in here. And so what I love so dearly about Mastering the Brain Game is, not only does it provide so many tools through the 10 weeks that build upon each other, but it gives you an experience of yourself that's safe to look right when you get here and lean in.
Yeah.
Right? You can understand that this is how your brain works a little bit more. And it's called a game, a brain game, because your brain doesn't know what you tell it being real, made up, believable, false. But if all we're doing is focusing on the lack, and we never give ourselves a chance to dream or think bigger or feel how we feel in our body, then it's almost like the vision board that never gets created, or the picture of the possibility in life that happens. And we literally cellularly forget how to dream for ourselves. The belief starts to die. And I know that's where I was. So much of life happened so much. It was just stressful. So I got good at being fine and mastering stress and getting through it so you could feel better. But I never looked at it in terms of making me feel better. And so, yes, I worked out, and yes, I exercised. But you know what I did? I kept punishing myself because it felt normal.
Right.
So I would go when I was tired, and I didn't learn to listen to me until life offered me that opportunity where I got to.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
everybody has that different moment, and maybe you're reaching it now. And so what I want to say is, the brain game for health, we have a pick your adventure. You get to use brain game tools for your wealth, your definitions of wealth, your activation of wealth, and study with Cindy Van Arnhem, or with me in your health, well-being, and wellness journey to those pieces of, where can I come back to myself in here to know what those great next steps are going to be, and what does it feel like, and where is my why, and how can I find myself again?
Well, I love that you brought that up, and helping even just bring awareness around the idea that that we do create our own reality. And how do we create our own reality, right? Like, we all heard about manifesting and whatnot, but what if you're someone who's really stuck in this frustrating place of, like, why do these things keep happening to me? Like, why does life keep beating me down and all of that?
Anybody else? Like, why can't I get up and walk like I want to? Why can't I follow the diet plan or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. And just that, the way that the brain game breaks down all those little processes, right? And helps you understand your brain and helps you understand just simply, yeah, how it operates. I had a realization talking with a client last week that I started cultivating peace on a daily basis within myself like 20 years ago. I was like, wait, really? Yeah. I'd really just barely heard about the law of attraction and was really focusing on um, listening to my thoughts and how they made me feel. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm thinking this thought. How's this making me feel? Is this feeling in alignment with what I want? Right. And so it's just so interesting. When I came to the brain game, I was like just mind blown at every class, because I was like, oh my gosh, I had learned one little piece of the information here and had been applying it, but you just showed me a whole world. And then we get to the next class and it would be like the same kind of thing of like, oh, I had one little piece of how the human energy system worked, but I didn't realize how it worked and how it related to drama,
Right.
and things like that. And it was just like one mind blown after another, feeling and tying together so succinctly, all these individual things that I'd been practicing and wanting to bring into my life into this whole other level of wholeness,
Mhm.
and effectiveness. I had no idea when I first learned about it what this whole cycle of divine timing was all about. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, because by the end of Brain Game, I had the biggest week I've ever had in my business, but just for me personally as well, as far as bringing income in. And I was like, I think this is alignment.
Well, yes, and it is. And what I love about divine timing so much is it literally is what it says. It's divine timing. So if you're in that space where you're ready to move forward and you're wondering what is that going to be, this program is based around divine timing. So the divine timing of transformation, the 6 stages of transformation, and we're helping you through that, through the experience of being who you are in that moment through the brain game. So with this emphasis on well-being, health, and wellness, you're going to understand, again, we're going to unravel some of those past belief systems or past events that no longer apply. Even though they were in our past, they don't have to rule how we move forward.
You
And then
don't
we
have to live in your nervous system.
right, like they're living in our body, and we get to learn, use the tools and utilize them, and then talk about what comes up as we go through those stages. And then we create the space. We create the space for the next steps and what we want more. What do we want to feel, look like, experience in this body? And where can we start right now without having to be different, without having it to be a blue pill or a red pill to get the quick fad loss? Or what is it that feels good in my body for me to do versus what I don't want? And again, we ruminate on the I don't want. It's so interesting. If you want to challenge yourself today, just try to pay a little attention to what you're thinking and how many times I don't want comes up, because we're real clear about that.
I
But we
love
kind
that.
of get gray in the what do I want?
Yeah.
And so if we were
And
for
what do I want? And am I allowed to have it? And am I allowed to focus on it? And
right, so the permission comes in because the why hasn't been established, that integral piece to ourselves of the values and why we want what we want, and what we're willing to do to move into that, and is it really important? And none of these are wrong answers. They're just where you are right now, and they help make this blueprint for where you want to go long after the brain game's finished. But here's
Mhm.
the beautiful thing that I love about this powerful program is after the 10 weeks together, you have the replays. And what I love to say in this transformational space, and anyone who's taken the brain game, we've had Jen with us, and I think Helen's with us, but anyone who's in it or just listening and learning more about it, and you've been with it and I've been in it, we are never the same right in this moment, boom, right now, as we were 5 minutes ago, 2 months ago, a year ago,
Mhm.
6 years ago. And we don't often consider that either. So we're experiencing ourselves in life in these moments. And when we dive into the personal and spiritual growth on either end, this is a very big personal growth focus. We add in the divine timing of what's meant for you will find you at that perfect moment. And we understand that you're here now because it's time for you to learn something different than what you've been doing that hasn't been producing the
Mm,
results. You
absolutely.
actually can experience yourself through a transformation. So when you're done at the end of 10 weeks, you've looked back and went, oh my gosh, you're not going to be thinking every single day, this is where I'm going, but you leave with the embodied sensation of transmuting that, moving,
Okay, so
shifting.
I'm getting chills as you're saying that. Absolutely. And in those instances, like you said, where we're meeting up against our our comfort zone, and maybe we're seeing some things about ourselves that aren't so pretty, right? We're leaning into our shadows, old pain, old trauma triggers, owning it. Pushing through in that time is like you said, so crucial. It's easier than you think, and yet it can feel harder than you think.
Well, we're going to
But
love it through in this version of the brain game. We're going to love all of that all the way through.
well, and so it's also been so powerful for me, the spaces where I've been in the group, in the group programs. Someone else will ask a question or share something, and suddenly you're like, oh my God, I'm living vicariously through you right now. I didn't even realize, but me too. Yep. Oh, okay. And so that's just one thing that I always encourage people in group spaces of, like, there's always this, or often this, like, oh, I don't want to take too much time. I don't want to, shift the foot. No, 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 no. What you're doing is helping everyone else learn right now. And you guys are so good at creating a safe space, a sacred space where, you are so lovingly held in order to share and grow and learn and all of that.
Mm.
And coming into being who you want to be, what you want. Michelle, it's so much easier in a way. Like, yes, you have to do the maintenance,
Right.
but it's not this complex thing that I thought it was in my head,
Make it harder.
Yeah, well, and that permission of, that's not for me. That's only other people.
It's
Other
yours.
people to do that,
It's yours for the grabbing. And this is something I know both of us have experienced. And we have these passions to bring our businesses from our passions, and we're watching it happen. But each
Yeah.
step of the way has required of us to invest in ourselves in a way that we didn't think we could do at one point or another. And
Mhm.
it's so interesting how after you dive into that, you would look back on it and never second guess it again.
Oh my
And
gosh, absolutely.
anybody, as they dive into a program, as you look at the brain game, we'll be putting a link down below in the comments. But as you look at it and you have questions and you're not sure, please reach out. Reach out to myself, to Cindy, to Emerald, to anyone that you feel good about speaking about this experience with, because I can tell you with words, I can tell you through this lens, I can say you will never regret the experience of yourself on the other side of that flip, right? Of the next,
Absolutely.
because who you become in that moment opens up the possibility to anything else you want to create in your life. You want
Mhm.
deeper relationships with your spouse, with your kids, with your money, with creating a new business, or leaving a job and moving somewhere else. You have the foundation within you to move forward because you've got the understanding and the basis for which you can maneuver and navigate the things that will come up, the other emotions, the patterns, those looping habits that we talked about.
And your relationship with yourself,
Oh,
right? Like I was watching some astrology about this next week and in January in general, and there was so much of a theme of, but what is your relationship to yourself? Are you a good friend to yourself? Is your body and your mind and your heart a good place for you to live in? Like, do you like it in here? Does it feel good? Like, and what do you want? And can you create what you want? And so there's just, oh my God, the answers are there.
there's such a secret in, we talked about the thoughts and how they produce reality.
Yeah.
Truly, your relationship to yourself um, ripples out into all other areas of your life as well.
Mhm.
So it's kind of the same concept,
Yeah.
right? So your loving relationship with yourself and the other side that's not so loving, like which one's screaming louder and how is that playing out in your life? Um, and I'll say that because it's so powerful. It was such a big, powerful discovery for me. Like I am not the same person I was before diving into this work and knowing that it's here and then going back to it and re-listening because we're always ever changing and shifting and growing and we get to learn from it over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
so, once you take the brain game, you're in it for life and you get to come back and take it in any other adventure you want to have. Do you want to go for business? Do you want to go for wealth? Do you want to go for health? And it's interchangeable. So it's not this one and done thing. And I just wanted to really impress upon that because it really is life changing and it is deep, beautiful, deep rooted work back to ourselves. And it's for those who are ready. It can have its ups and downs, but it's a beautiful process if you open up to that. So do you have any last minute things you wanted to add in about that as we wrap up our well-being for 2021? I have a passion to have the brain game be a part of like a household name to where our teens know these tools and the adults can mirror those tools for their kids and they can have these conversations because we're both working off the same place. I can't tell you how much freedom that opens with my relationships with my daughters, and they're younger than me and not having to go through the pain and the cycles that I did, yet they're going to experience their life in their own way.
Oh yeah.
Those tools available and that back memory of this can help me and I can come back to this. The world that can ripple from those kind of experiences and ourselves rippling that energy out into the world is priceless in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was not at all in a habit. I really never invested in myself in any kind of really like personal development stuff prior to this past like year and a half. And, I kind of just had this feeling of like, well, I'd rather have a new pair of shoes or something tangible, right? Like I want something for my money. And now I know and can say without a doubt that investing in yourself, oh my goodness, like you are going to get more back on that, return for your investment is bigger when you invest in yourself than anything else. You are so totally worth it. Absolutely. And, gosh, what else was I going to say? I was going to say something else. Sometimes it's really just this urge within your heart, this, maybe a little bit of an intuitive knowing. I feel like a lot of times we get caught up in life and we'll allow our rational brain to talk us out of that. Oh, I can't afford it. Oh, this, that, the other. One of the things I've done, in the last last year is looking at my finances and really looking at, okay, well, what am I spending money on? Because I did have a lot of these feelings and ideas of, oh, I can't afford it, this, that, or the other, whatever that thing was. And then looking at my finances over several months going, oh, actually, I do have that money. I'm just spending it here, here, and here. And is that really, in alignment with my desires and my, oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll think of it.
Well, it's about who we are, what we want, and are we willing to go get it? And what does it take? Like, what are the actions and the permission and all the things that follow along with that? That becomes alignment. That's my definition of alignment. Right. And really, we're looking at those places where we're incongruent with what we say we want and what we're actually doing. Yeah. And if you find yourself in that space, it's okay.
Right.
Just really looking, like you said, okay, I was watching, I'll have to share with you, I was watching The Shopaholic with my daughter over the weekend. Have you read those books or seen that series? They're a beautiful set of books by Sophia Kinsella, and it's just all about this girl who gets in all these calamities because of her shopping addiction and her credit card bills, and then having to she ends up becoming like a spokesperson for savings and loan, and she's in debt, running from debt. But long story short, there was this moment where they got the tequila out and they were like, we're going through the bills, we're adding all this up, and it's that moment, like you're saying, we're like ripping it all off and looking at myself and really looking at the places I've been pretending to not see myself. And Health is another one of those areas. Wealth is one of those areas, and relationships too. Like, where am I contributing that I may not want to be looking at, because it's just easier to say it's all your fault. And with love and with compassion, be like, let me look here first and see what happens, because it's amazing what shifts. And so in watching that movie, it was just reminding me of all those places. It was dramatically portrayed of, yeah, sometimes it feels like we need to grab the tequila and sit down and like lift the curtain and be like, all right, I'm going to look now.
Yeah.
But you're stuck there. Like, we think we are, we just don't know what's different because we haven't experienced it yet. So it's so beautiful. Well, I want to end with saying, whoever joins, at least the journey with me for the health version of Brain Game, starting on Thursday, this Thursday, 2 p.m., and it's going to go for 10 weeks. They're going to also get a Breakthrough to Alignment blueprint. So it's going to have a bit more information about themselves in their numerology codes, in their empowerment, I call them empowerment codes. And also, you know, if there's a place that comes up through that 10 weeks where we feel like there's something a little more deeply rooted, and an opportunity to work one-on-one with me to clear that through. So it's really exciting on how that information will help just enhance the brain game that much more, and give this experience in our body back to ourselves, and really align us to head for where we want to go next in 2021, or however it's going to be for us to increase our health, our immunity, our well-being, and love ourselves that much more, and consider ourselves in places we might not have been up to this point. So
I love that so much, Michelle. You know, the biggest thing that Liberty's death has taught me is really truly to make peace with death so that I can really live. Because the truth of it is that, you know, tomorrow's not guaranteed, next week, next month, all the ideas we have about that don't really exist. Right now is truly all you have, and your life is precious, and you are here to do something special. You're here for an important reason. And so rather than just going through the motions of life, you know, really dedicate yourself to you and what and who you are and what you want, and have that courage and be willing to to go out and claim it for yourself. And the brain game is such a great way to do that. You know, I love just everything that you have to say around this. You're always so good at articulating, you know, all these little processes that we might not even be, you know, so aware of, and holding that loving space. You know, that's the biggest thing is, you know, we're not doing this to punish ourselves. We're not doing this because you're wrong or bad or anything else like that. It's because we're really, truly being asked, I feel, to really come into our power, and to come into our empowerment and ourselves, and really to anchor that energy of divine love here on the planet, here within ourselves. And this is such a powerful way to really lastingly shift yourself, your energetic field, you know, so that you're creating in your life what it is that you want, and having those tools to do so consciously. It's so powerful.
And feel in your body, what does it really feel like to love myself?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have that experience for a good 40 years of my life. Like, I like myself, okay, but like, to love yourself because you know you've got you, like, that's priceless. And if you're not there yet, it's available, and you don't have to feel bad. It's just, where do you want to go next? You know?
Absolutely.
Oh, this has been so good. I could talk to you about this forever.
Yeah,
I feel energetically like we're coming to a close with this. So I just take a deep breath. Like, I'm hearing my dogs in the background squeak their toy and play. And they don't worry about what people think and like all the things. And they're just having a great time filling their life with joy. And it's not that much different than what we have available to us if we give some focus and mindfulness to it. That play, that energetic space of just being who we are and loving ourselves and moving forward in this next phase of life, this next place for us to work within, you know, all the beautiful deliciousness that creates life. So
absolutely.
joining us. We'll put the link down below. We get started this Thursday. Their replays will be available if you're not able to join in. They are as effective and potent as being there live, but of course, any experience you can do live is that much more enhancing. And I really look forward to meeting those who are going to be joining us. And thank you, Emerald, for sharing your experience today and your time. And
You're so welcome. Thank you.
I invite you to reach out to either one of us with any questions. We'll
and happy new year to everyone. You know, I love the feeling of the new year and this new possibility, you know, and I feel like brain game is such an important part of yeah, what are you going to create? This is a blank slate. What are you ready for? What are you stepping into? And come along for this ride.
New year, new you. New year. Erase, start over. New year, better you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. All right. Well, thanks so much. I'll catch you guys again on live soon. And again, reach out with any questions. Everyone have a beautiful day and happy Monday, guys.
Yes, you as well, Michelle. Take care.